and we're so pleased to be sponsoring this session today, all about respect. So I've got a little bit to a little pre-thing before, and then I'll introduce our panel. Let me just put my glasses on. Okay. So, welcome to the Respect Revolution. Today, we're not just having a conversation, we're making a statement. We're here because it's time our industry stopped being overlooked, undervalued, and left out of rooms where decisions is made. Let me share some numbers with you. The UK hair and beauty, barbering and hair sector contributes 19 billion to our economy. We support over 275,000 jobs. We power 49,000 local businesses across the country. We are the heartbeat of the high street and the backbone of our communities. But here's the reality. Despite all of this, our voices are missing from the table when it comes to when policies are written. We are economic drivers, yet we're held back with unfair rules. We're national assets, yet our apprenticeship systems are underfunded. We're well-being providers offering mental health support, that human connection and everyday single care. Yet there's no formal recognition of the profound impact we have on people's lives. We create trusted spaces where people feel seen, heard and valued. We're often the first to notice when somebody is struggling. We hold our communities together in ways that cannot always be measured on a spreadsheet. But they matter deeply, and it's time decision makers looked at our sector seriously. That's why the NHBF launched our Respect Our Sector campaign, to raise our profile, push for fairer policies, and show how the real value of what we do to the economy, socially and overall. So this panel today brings together some of the most respected professionals in our industry. People who have built their careers with skills, integrity and are the backbone of the sector. They're here to share their insights, their challenges and their vision for the future of where our sector's going. So let's get started and let's introduce our panel. So let me pass over, please.
Hi everyone, I'm Meg Piper. I'm a salon owner and session stylist up in Manchester.
Hi, my name is Chris Moody. I own a salon called Moody Hair. We're based in Sheffield in South Yorkshire, and it's a great pleasure to be here.
Hi, my name is Kirsty Watson. I own Qualia Skin Specialist in Huddersfield, and I'm also a proud NHBF board member.
Hi, I'm Victoria Lynch. I am founder and owner of Remi Cachet, but I'm also a very true hair professional at heart.
Thank you very much. Thank you for our panel today. So I've got a few number of questions for you. So the first question is, what does respect mean to you personally in the context of hair and beauty?
So I'm a big believer that respect is, earned and given. It's a two-way street and it's about how you treat people. And I think that's really important in our industry. It's really important to treat everyone with kindness and openness. And I think that is how you gain respect with it, whether it be with clients, with peers. That I think is the most important thing, is treating everyone like you would want to be treated. And that's how we gain respect for other people in our industry, I think.
What does respect mean? That's a big question, isn't it? I guess it starts. I guess it starts with yourself, with you, and how much you respect yourself. So I think it's about your own personal values, what you'll accept, and what you won't accept, where you draw a line, and what you'll do to go over and above. So I think with all of these things, it starts inside. What you do inside is what you project outside. And what you project outside is how people behave back to you. So it begins with respecting yourself first, I think.
Thank you so much. Respect for me is about equity and equality. And I'm quite fortunate to be in quite a lot of different spaces. And the way that the hair, beauty, aesthetics and barbering sector is treated is very different in comparison to other sectors. So it's all about equality.
I agree with all of those sentiments there. And for me, I look at this as two angles, one from the hair professional, and I feel like that space and everybody has a starting point into the industry. So a lot of that comes around passion and support. and guiding the next generation of hair professionals. And then from a manufacturer and a supplier point of view, I get lots of people speaking to me who I've inspired for them to go on and invest further in themselves. And that demonstrates to me vocally that there's a level of respect out there that people, whether they say it out loud or not, it's don't be afraid to speak it, don't be afraid to say it, and don't be afraid to support it, no matter where you are in the industry.
Perfect, thank you. The next question is, what is the biggest misconception the public has about the hair and beauty professionals, and how might we change that narrative?
Well, being in the industry a long time, I've seen the good, the bad and the ugly about how the general consensus is around hairdressing. And for many years, people used to look at it as a really undervalued skill set and experience. And it was deemed as it was a career that if you weren't going to do good in anything else. But I mean, look at us now. We're in a world where technology has taken over our lives and AI is replacing people. But what AI can't do is replace people in person. And I think that's where now people will look at an industry like ours, along with any type of trade sector, and think, I wish I'd have done that many years ago. So I think we're in a really good space now as an industry, and I like to see that.
Thank you. One of the preconceived notions is that the value that hair brings is around personal value, it's around economic value, but there's also societal changes and societal impacts that hair brings. There has been a lot of public sector services which have been completely amalgamated into the private sector, and hair takes on a lot of that. So that can be things like giving people advice and guidance, assisting with mental health, as Caroline alluded to earlier. And I'm in the voluntary sector space as well, and we do a thing called social impact value, and we look at what has been the absorption of the cost that may have been incurred by the public purse. If we were to sit down and look at hair, barbering, beauty aesthetics, and see how much we've saved for therapy or for doctors' costs, there would be quite a big significant impact there financially as well. So that's one of the things that's misconceived.
Biggest misconception. I think there's two misconceptions. I think one's internally, like I think hairdressers have got misconceptions about what hairdressing is, and I think the public have as well. And so from a public point of view, I think a big misconception is that it's very routine and it's very singular, and you go to a salon and you do one thing and that's all. But I think what often surprises my clients and my friends is all the different things that I do. Like this, for instance, they would never think that this exists. Or the travel, or television stuff, or film stuff, or all the different things that's available. I mean, if you look at Josh over there and Rebecca and the places that they go to and the things that they do, it's really, really multifaceted, so many different aspects. And I think the public don't recognise what a really complex and multifaceted industry it is and how fulfilling it can be. And I think hairdressers themselves, I think they have a misconception that they think that it's an incredibly unique industry and nobody else has the same troubles and tribulations and problems. But actually, it has the same troubles as lots of other industries as well. And it can have the same pitfalls as every other industry as well. And sometimes the key things that you need to succeed are the same in every industry, not just in hairdressing. Resilience, like you said, self-respect, determination, education, ambition, all of those things happen exactly the same way. So yeah, good.
I think for me, the biggest public perception that I've found personally as well is the fact that you do hairdressing when there is no other option. You do it when you're not academic, and it's something that is kind of forced upon a lot of young girls and a lot of the young men, really, to say, well, if you can't go to college and do your A-levels, well, do hairdressing, do hospitality, do that type of thing. And it's something that I actually even personally found in my own journey becoming a hairdresser. I did study my A-levels. I actually wanted to be a film director originally, and I'd gone through all of that. I'd actually applied for uni, and just so happened I decided to switch and I wanted to be a hairdresser. And when I went to my college for my interview in hairdressing, they saw that I had A-levels, and the college tutor that was actually sat in front of me said, "Why do you want to be a hairdresser? You're too smart." And I was like, I was 19, and I was sat there and I was like, what does that mean? I don't understand what you're asking me there. Surely you have to be smart for every, in some way for every industry. And I think that's a perception we really need to change, is the fact that people just do it because they have no other option. We need to get out there and shout about how scientific, how technical, how creative our industry is, because then that will bring the respect that I think our industry really deserves.
Absolutely, and actually that covers one of my next questions, which is like the perception of our sector. So if somebody goes into plumbing or engineering or stuff like that, it's classed as a trade. But then when you go into hairdressing or beauty therapy, we're not actually classed as a trade, but actually it takes such a long time for that education and skills and that sort of training side of things. And I think it's about, changing that narrative and really making sure that we actually do value ourselves. And I think that leads on to my next question, which is, what role does pricing play in the respect conversation? So how do we educate clients the true value of our services and our profession?
So I think the pricing conversation is a really interesting conversation, and I actually think, and this is not a dig at us as an industry, I think we make that perception because I know from teaching business, there's so many salon owners and stylists and freelancers that are so scared to say that number that they actually deserve. And your fear and your lack of, confidence in yourself is what the clients is going to, it's going to make them question it, because they're like, well, if you're not sure, if you're kind of saying it's £170, but actually maybe we'll do this and it might be this price and it might be this, that's when they'll be a bit like, wait, hold on a minute, what am I actually paying for here? And that's when you can get into those conversations about it. When you hire a plumber or whatever, they tell you a quote and you like it or you lump it, and that's as easy as it is. And I think we need to be a little bit more like that, a little bit more confident in what we're meant to be, what we are pricing correctly for our services, and saying, this is my price. If it's out of your budget, that's fine, but that is my price, and that's what I deserve.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I agree with that, actually. I agree with the thing about the plumbers and stuff, and they give you a quote and what have you, but I think the problem starts is it's not about how much you deserve. I mean, I'm not sure that's really relevant to say I deserve this much. It's how much does it cost to provide that service, and what percentage profit do you want to make from that service? And that's, rather than telling each other what we deserve, just say, right, so this service, it takes 1 hour, it costs this much in product, it costs this much in time, and I want a 30% markup on each of these services. And that gives you a price. And then you say that price, and if somebody turns around and says, how do you get to that? How can you possibly charge that much? Well, you can say, this is how I charge that much. So it's not about what I deserve, it's about this is how much the service costs, and this is how much I want to make in profit from that service. So therefore, my haircut is £50, and your haircut is £100, and your haircut is £25. And they're all different prices depending on where we are. But I think the first step is, if we're always telling everybody how professional we are, then sit down and professionally work out how much it costs you to run your service and how much money you want to make from that service, and start from there.
Thank you very much to both of you. I agree completely with what you said there. Although one of the things that does tend to get overlooked when it comes down to costing is looking at what was that education cost to you, how much did it financially cost, what was that opportunity that you lost by way of going and getting that education, your continued professional development, your memberships, fees, all of these things have an incur in the cost as well. And then also looking at, when it comes down to the cost of living crisis, things are going up, so your cost of your products are going to go up. So putting on top of that profit margin a little bit of a wheelie so that you can cover all of the costs.
Yeah, I agree with all of those points, but I think for pricing, for me, it comes very much back to that self-worth and self-valuation, and also going back to the perception of how the general public may be looking at this industry. But they do forget the time, the investment, the events, the hotels, the weekends away, the expenses, everything that is involved in you being able to deliver what you do to them clients. And some people don't bat an eyelid about going spending £300 on a 30-minute Botox appointment, but then question and dare to haggle what price you're specifying. And at the end of the day, that is your price. You should be confident to stand by it, and that is your self-worth and valuation. And if they don't like it, then they're not the right client for you.
I'm with. I've been hairdressing since 1983. I was only 2 years old when I started, and with all respect, we've had the same conversation since 1983. It's always been exactly the same conversation. And this thing about like self-worth and this is what I deserve, that's all well and good, but you can sit in an empty salon with no clients in, telling everybody on Instagram how much you're worth, but that it won't pay your bill. And so all the things, the education, the tours, the tickets for Salon International, that's all your costs. So work all those costs in and start from there. And somebody once said to me back in the 1980s, they said there's no point trying to build £1 million salon if the people in your locality don't have £1 million to spend. So you have to look at that too. And if you're in the middle of Mayfair, you can go mad and go wild, but my salon's not in the middle of Mayfair. It's in a tiny little working class village with about 10,000 people in it. And so you have to bear that in mind as well. It doesn't matter how much I sit there telling people how much I'm worth, there is a balance between how much I'm worth and how much people will pay. And you have to find that. And, I've been successful and in business for over 40 years and people are still paying it. But find out, how much does it cost to operate? How much is that service costing? What do you want to make on top of it? Forget what you're worth. 30% is a really good starting point. 35%. That's in addition, that's excluding all your taxes and your VAT and everything else. If you could walk away with 35% profit, you'll do all right. You'll do really well.
Great, thank you. And it's about raising standards and doing that sort of thing. But for me, one of the biggest drivers within the industry is the social media. And, there's a lot of DIY trends on social media. So the National Hair and Beauty Federation 5 years ago launched our Top 100 Index. And that was really to highlight the professionals that are using social media to really, influence our industry. But what we have is a lot of DIYers on there. There's a lot of, bad things on there. And how can we make sure that we inject that credibility into our industry through social media?
So DIY has kind of always been a thing, so people have always played around with their hair since people have had hair. And I think social media does perpetuate it because, there's videos of teaching you how to do things. But there's always been box dye, there's always been people that will take scissors to the hair. And I always think, 9 times out of 10, we're going to be after the ones that fix that because 9 times out of 10, it's not going to go right. That's where our professionalism comes in. I think this is a really important conversation I have with my clients. Like, if you go home and cut your fringe, that's fine. It's your head of hair. It's not my business. But I will be here to professionally fix that. And it's that conversation in a very respectful way about it. We shouldn't be blaming people for doing what they want with their own bodies because it is their own bodies. But have that respectful conversation of being like, when you need a little bit of help, when you actually want to come in and help get someone to fix it, I will have that conversation with you in a respectful manner and not blame you for hacking at your own hair, because we're just creating a perception that we're kind of a bit mean then, and that people are going to be a little bit scared when they have messed up. And I think that's a really important thing to remind them that we can be there to fix it and we can have that conversation with them.
What was it about the question about people?
DIY,
people
on social media. Yeah,
I love a bit of DIY. I agree with exactly what you've said there. I think what people do to their hair is none of my business. The only thing that concerns my business is when they sit down in my chair. That's my business. And then if they decide to do something to their own hair, then that's totally up to them. And it goes right back. If we're this really incredible professional that's put years and years and hundreds of thousands of pounds into our education, and we're so skilled and very technical, then what are we afraid of? Should be able to come in with anything, any situation. If we're that good, we shouldn't be afraid of anything. And like you said, we do have the option to say no. That's another thing as well, and that I do that a lot more now as I'm getting older. I'll sit down with the client and I'll say, I'm sorry, I don't think this is the right salon for you. I don't think we're going to be able to help you with this, but I wish you the best of luck. Thanks for coming in. And I don't take any risks anymore. But let people come in with whatever they want. Like you say, it's their bodies. Do whatever they want with it. It's none of our business. Our business is to deal with it once they arrive in our chair.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I love a bit of DIY too. So one of the things that I find when I look at things like DIY on social media, rather than seeing it as just a problem, it's also an opportunity. So it's an opportunity for me to utilise Google's algorithm tool. So they have something called experience, expertise, authority and trustworthiness. And that is utilised as a formula for you to be able to get high listings on Google. So people will find you when you put in certain keywords. Now, if somebody's done a DIY trend and they've got a hashtag like, black to brown, you can use that to demonstrate your expertise. So you can come in with your education, showcase your expertise, get it on social media, and you can then be that balance and also the person that someone will come to fix it, or someone that they trust to get guidance from.
Yeah, so social media's got its good and its bad, and I think as it's evolved, it has opened the floodgates for people to learn more, because we're not gatekeeping in what we're doing. We're quite proud of the work that we're doing behind the chair, and then we're sharing how the before, the afters, and then that's allowed people to think, oh yeah, I can actually try a little bit of that at home. But that's something that we just can't police as an industry. So whilst it influences the consumer in one way, social media for me has been very much about working with the pros directly and allowing them to be our authentic voice of what we do, and influencing other trade professionals, because we know as a trade professional that you're not going to look at a general influencer as such in what you're doing. You're going to look at other hair professionals too, and it works both ways between whether you're a pro or in that consumer space. But we have to take the challenges, but equally there's more opportunities, and just use social media to the best advantage.
Perfect, thank you. So what advice would you give somebody entering our industry about establishing themselves?
What advice? I'd say learn as much as possible, respect, communicate, talk, engage, visit events, and constantly invest in yourself as well, no matter how big or small that might be. Never be afraid to say that you still haven't learned enough. It doesn't matter how long you've worked in the industry, we are always evolving. We're always learning something new, whether it's about ourselves, about the industry itself, or a new skill that is being developed, for example. So it's just being respectful in that area, not stealing other people's clients, because it's such a saturated industry as well, but there's work out there for everybody. So I think that's probably the starting point, to be mindful of that for everybody.
Thank you. One of the things that I'd say to anybody that's starting out is identify who your tribe is, find out who you can get support from, find out who can give you some guidance so you don't make the same mistakes that they made when they first started out. Ensure to utilise any kind of training for business and marketing as well as for your skill set. So you need to have dual professionalism when it comes down to setting up nowadays. And then the other thing that I would recommend as well is join, this is a shameless plug, join a trade body. Because if you join a trade body, you've got social capital, and that social capital can help you, and it can also guide you along your way in your journey.
Yep, I agree with the trade body thing. I think joining a trade body is really good. Like the NHBF, for instance, and competitions, they're a great way just to kind of cut your teeth, get involved in competitions and photographic competitions, because now you can do them on your phone and send them in and things like that. That's really, really good. But and also 3 things that I would say to any young person. Number 1, watch and listen. Just watch and listen, really, really intently watch and listen. Number 2, ask questions. Just ask questions. Don't tell people what you think. Don't tell people what you want. Just ask questions. And thirdly, and most importantly, be of service. Serve first. Look for ways that you can serve people, whether that's clients, other stylists, other salon professionals. Can you come to somewhere like this and run and get coffees for people and tidy up? Can you serve first? Get a reputation for somebody who watches and listens, asks good questions, and is of valuable service. If you get that reputation, people are going to invite you to more and more things. They're going to remember you, and they're going to want you on their team.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. One of the things that I would say, and this is going to sound really hypocritical coming from someone that's a session stylist, but one of my big things is don't niche down too quickly. I think a lot of people come into our industry now being like, I want to be a blonde specialist, or I want to be a balayage specialist, or whatever I want to do. And I feel like they go down a very singular path too quickly. I am a session stylist and I'm a vivid artist in the salon, but that only happened in the last 4 years, and I've been hairdressing now for 12 because I decided to try things out. I hated some of it, I loved some of it, but I tried everything out before I decided that what was good for me and where I found my niche. Because if I didn't, you could end up picking something that in 10 years you actually realise that you kind of hate. And I don't think that's where any of us want to be. And when we learn those broad skills in the hair sector, whether it be colour, cutting, session work, whatever that is, I think it all lends itself to whatever niche you actually go into, because you're such an all good, well-rounded hairdresser then, that then everything what you do choose to niche in becomes just a really good service that you can offer people.
Perfect, thank you. For me, we launched our Respect Our Sector literally for the reason about hair and beauty professionals, having a voice, talking about how we contribute to the industry, talking about how professional we are. So if you go on our NHBF website, you'll see loads and loads of tools and resources regarding our Respect Our Sector campaign. They're all readily and freely available for people to download. It's about telling your story. It's just about what the guys have said today. The way we're going to get respect in our sector is respecting ourselves and telling everybody what a fantastic creative industry we work in and how proud we are for working in that industry. But it's not just about consumers, it's not just about your clients, it's having to write to MPs. There's a whole raft of things you can do. If I say from one takeaway that I'd ask you to do today, that's go on our website and become a friend of the National Hair and Beauty Federation. It's absolutely free, but what you do is you get the latest information right straight into your inbox or in your Instagram account or your Facebook as part of that. So, it's free. Please utilise it as part of that. So I've got one or two last few questions, which is, what do you see the hair and beauty industry is going to be in the next 5-10 years?
That's a very big question. I think the thing is, and Chris kind of pointed out on this a little bit as well, is the fact that what I would really like to see is us not having these same conversations. Like, Chris said, we've been having these same conversations for a very long time. And I actually think now's a bit of time for action. And I think that's what we kind of need to do, whether it is about the respect that we need to get outside of the industry, whether it is about how we treat each other within the salon, how we treat our clients. I would love to see, next year, us lot talking about the actions that we actually took to do that, instead of saying how we can do it. I think it'd be really, really nice for that to happen. And I think that's a real thing that I really believe in, is like now is kind of the time for action for it.
Is anybody in an organisation like the NHF? Put your hand up if you are. Anybody? Anybody not? You're not going to put your hand up no matter what I say, are you? Doesn't matter. Put your hand up if you're never going to put your hand up, no matter what anybody says. So the only reason that I'm asking is it doesn't really, sorry Caroline, but it doesn't really matter what organisation you're in as long as you're in an organisation. Because over the last 40 years, since I've been hairdressing, the one problem that's got in the way is separation. We're all really separated and we're not unified. My son's a plumber and they're all unified together. And, my daughter works in an industry that's all unified together and we're not really. There's lots of different little fractions all over the place. And before I say what's going to happen in the next 5 or 10 years, I'll tell you what I do think is going to happen unless we change. I think if we're not really careful, because of social media and different employment models that are opening up, if we're not careful, we're going to turn into a little cottage industry where there's going to be lots and lots of little hairdressers all working in little studios dotted around all over the place. I come from a city called Sheffield and there used to be lots of little individual knife makers and cutlery makers. Does that make sense? And they all worked in their own little workshop doing their own little thing all by themselves. Does that make sense? But now, guess what? None of them are there. They've all gone. And they've been taken over by massive big factories in different places where they're all working together. And I think if we keep focusing in on ourselves individually, we're going to turn into a little cottage industry. Hundreds of little hairdressers all over the place with one little voice each. And you'll agree, nobody hears one little voice, do they? It has to be a big one. So get part of an organisation like this, or any organisation. This is a good one because it's been around a long time and it knows what it's doing. And have a big collective voice, because that's how you change this 40-year-old conversation. Everybody has the same big voice. Does that make sense? All right. So what I think is going to happen that's positive, I think the industry is going to change in two ways. I think it's going to be very big and very small and nothing in between. I think you're going to have really sort of very individual boutique, bespoke salons, and then you're going to have larger collective spaces. I think that's how it's going to go. And I think that's going to be really healthy, because if you want the big, large collective space, I can see like a big salon, and in that salon there'll be a hairdresser, a barber, a nail person, an extensionist, an esthetician, something else, and you'll kind of like imagine a food hall but for beauty. You know what I mean? Where you can go, but they're all kind of like working together. I'm on a roll now. Can you hear me? And then I think the other one will be these little. When I say little, I don't mean individuals, but small salons. Think about like clothes shops. There'll be really high-end exclusive places, and then there'll be places where you can get kind of a general feel for something that you need. But either way, both of those models will thrive if they're all speaking the same voice, if they're all talking together. You can only do that if you're part of a big collective. So stop separating ourselves into individuals and be a collective. That's how we'll survive and that's how we'll thrive. Thank you very much. That's all I have to say about that.
Thank you for that, Chris. So I'm quite fortunate to be 7 years into my PhD, and my PhD is on entrepreneurship and marginalisation, and looking at how entrepreneurship can be utilised for people to get out of marginalisation, or for people to, I'm talking about things like social economic backgrounds and how it's used to make them economically powerful. And one of the things that keeps cropping up is the use of things like hair, beauty, aesthetic, barbering, that people use whether they're neurodivergent, whether they come from like challenging backgrounds. They utilise those to build their strength and to be able to put them in a better position in society. So there's absolutely the need for joining a trade body, because if you're in that situation, what then happens is you can then be that big voice together and go out there and make a difference. So for me, looking at what the trends are currently from what I've identified in my PhD thesis, innovation, social media, the knowledge, what we call the knowledge economy, is going to make it so that people are a little bit more independent, but we don't want to lose sight of those larger organisations too, so we need to have a balance.
I completely agree with what you've just said there, because we are seeing it now, and I feel as though this comes from an area of control and personal control, because if we think back to the cottage days at Sheffield that are no longer there, if you think of cycles and decades, we naturally see trends and cycles coming back round a few decades later. And we went all into big salon groups, big salon workspaces, lots of employees, but we're now living in a time where people want to be in control of their working time, want to be in control of their lives, who they work with, where they are, how much they're paying out, being under somebody's remit in employment. And now it's such an easy space to take that control into your own remit and think, I'm working for myself. But what is really important is, rather than going off and segregating yourself from the industry, is actually work in a community hub, like a hub that has other hairdressers, beauty, aesthetics, and work in that shared space and environment where you're constantly learning and not segregating yourself solely, because that's where things can go wrong. And then it's at events and in organisations that are echoing this right narrative and message that we all learn from each other. So the challenges that we're seeing weekly, whether it's by locality or by the economic challenges, we're all in the same boat. And it's in those environments that you're going to learn from, where we'll set a new trend, a new pattern of working. Will people go back into it? And I think there's a massive space now of people going into self-employment, and that's what that talks to. But will it pass? I don't know. I love the fact that people are taking control of themselves in that space, but I do really feel as though the engagement and the community voice is what really matters most.
But yeah, like that self-employment thing, if that's all about control, self-control and what have you, you can still get that. You can still have an employment model where there's autonomy and choice and purpose and all of that kind of thing, but you're part of it, if you know what I mean. Like, I employ a medium-sized team, but there's a lot of choice, there's a lot of autonomy. If people want to work certain times, they can, and it's all open to discussion, because here's the thing, you go work for yourself and be self-employed, and I know, because I've been there as well, and I've been in the game a long time, because you think it's going to give you choice and autonomy, but it doesn't. It's not going to give you choice at all, because here's the thing, I can be here today on a Saturday. I've got the choice to be here on Saturday because my business is still running with the 12 people that are working there on Saturday. Does that make sense? And I'm still earning a crust from that as well. So it's not always the choice that you think. And sorry to go on a rant here. Here's the other thing with the choice thing. I don't want to work Saturdays anymore. Don't want to work Saturdays. I want to have my own choice and do my own thing. Well, that's fine. But if everybody decides to do that nobody wants to work Saturdays, and you've taken Saturday off, what are you going to do? So all the coffee shops are closed. All the shops are closed. Nobody's home because nobody wants to work Saturdays. So you're just going to sit at home and watch Netflix. Somebody's got to work Saturdays. Does that make sense? So, yes, it's about choice and balance, things like that. So self-employment doesn't always give you the choices that you think. It gives you some, but not all of them. I'm shaking now because I'm a bit...
No worries, thank you. And it's really good to see, different perspectives. And that's the thing with our sector. There is so much opportunity and there's so much change. And it's one of the things that obviously we launched our Respect Our Sector campaign because we really wanted to shout about the sector, but also give the sector a voice as part of that. And for me, the one big thing I want out of this campaign is respect. That's why we said. So if I ask that question to you guys, and we've got a fantastic panel, what would be the one thing you'd want out of this campaign that would support the sector?
I think for me, it would be reaching young people. I think that's a really big thing. Like, I want to show the next generation that we are respected as an industry, and it's actually a beautiful industry to come into. The apprentice side of our industry and the young people coming is kind of dying. We all kind of know that, people who are going to college has gone down all across the sector. So I would really love for us to be reaching out to them and saying, we're an amazing sector, we are respected, we're building that respect, and you can have a job that you love for the rest of your life. And that is something that I think is really important, because if we don't have a next generation, hairdressing kind of dies, and I don't know what we do about that. So
I think I'd really like unity. That's what I'm talking about. I'd like unity. I'd like everybody to be singing from the same hymn sheet, having the same kind of like values, not necessarily doing things in the same way, but having the same values and the same idea of what it means to be good at what we do and to offer service to people, and to not have so many fragmented voices all shouting lots of different things, because that weakens us all and it makes us look a little bit less professional. So I think I'd just like unity. So that even if we were doing something different to each other, we were all on the same path, the same journey, roughly wanting the same goals.
Thank you. The thing that I'd love is for the understanding of the differentiation in models, in approaches, and for that unity, because that is correct, we do need unity, to be able to assist with getting that voice through to government and changes for things like the funding for education, apprenticeships, etc.
I think from an education piece with the industry is echoing the same message of unity, but with different viewpoints, and sharing experiences from those that have been there, done it, and seen the good, the bad and the ugly, because this is how people can then take that information and make an informed decision that actually works and is suitable for them, no matter the circumstances or the situation, because what is working now may not work for them in the same space in 12 months to 24. So it's always being able to evolve, be ready to adapt, and be ready to understand and learn new things from people that are there willing to share that with you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the panel today, and thank you for sharing your points of view, which has been absolutely fantastic. I always say to people, please come and look at the NHBF website. We're just down at the VIP stand, just down the aisle just there, if you want to come and chat. And I'm sure some of the panel members will be hanging around if anybody has any specific questions. But thank you very much again.
Thank you, Caroline.
Cheers.